Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Monday, so order and reason have returned to the world. The mail has resumed. So I have a mail haul for you. You must have seen already. I'm sure all of you are subscribed to SFF 180. I'll leave a link down below just in case you're not. But it's the one-stop shopping BookTube channel for all things SFF. And Thomas has the staples of his channel is Mailbag Monday, where he does the mail on Monday, and it's kind of it's unintentional, of course, but it's kind of a thematic counterpart to mail on this channel because, of course, he's an expert on science fiction fantasy, knows a whole bunch of people in the industry, no publicist in their right mind for an SFF book of any size, the publisher, big or small, should ignore him if he requests a book from you, or even if he doesn't, just flood him with books. And so what you get on his Mailbag Mondays is a curated thing. You get new and upcoming releases in one specific genre, opened and looked at by one extremely discerning reader, whereas the mail on this channel tends to sprawl all over creation, and I never know what's coming, and I am not a discerning reader. But we've got a few packages here. We'll see what we have. It'd be kind of funny if there was any SFF in this. There never is. But that's largely my own fault because I don't review it. I don't. It's a classic chicken and egg causality loop. I don't get it, so I don't review it, and because I don't review it, I don't get it. But anyway, let's see what we have here. So this first one is from the folks at Europa Editions. They always do great work. They are such a great publisher. And this is, well, okay, this is an advanced copy. So the book is Like a Sword Wound. It's by Ahmet Altan, translated from the Turkish by Brendan Freely and Yelda Teredi. And that is what it's going to look like. The advanced copy doesn't have any artwork on it at all. And the book comes out in early October. This is from the author of Endgame, and it has a blurb by Elif Shafak. It feels kind of silly holding it up because you don't. Let's see here. The book is a sensual epic of a changing society set during the fall of one of history's greatest empires. This is part of the author's Ottoman Quartet, which spans 50 years between the final decades of the 19th century and the post-World War I rise of Ataturk as both unchallenged leader and visionary reformer of the new Turkey. The 4 books in the quartet tell the gripping stories of unforgettable cast of characters, among them an Ottoman army officer, the Sultan's personal doctor, a scion of the royal house whose Western education brings him into conflict with his family legacy, and a beguiling Turkish aristocrat who, while fond of her emancipated life in Paris, finds herself drawn to a conservative Muslim spiritual leader. Okay, so Endgame, which Europa Editions also published, was this author's English language debut. But what are you doing, baby? Oh God, this dog is going to have her own BookTube channel. she now knows when I'm filming, and she doesn't want to be left out. But now I'm wondering, okay, all right, okay, there it says so. So Like a Sword Wound is volume 1 of the Ottoman Quartet. Okay, so, and the pub sheet calls it a Turkish saga reminiscent of War and Peace, and certainly now I want to know what the story is with the other volumes. I know, in an ideal world, I would want the publisher to do the whole of it at once, but publishers need to put food on the table, so they come out with this as it's ready. Now I'm automatically curious, though, what about the rest of the Ottoman Quartet? When will that be available? But it doesn't stop me from reading the first volume. So that comes out in early October. And believe it or not, despite the fact that it's as humid as a Louisiana bayou here, it's 95% humidity. An unbelievable number. That you just have to experience it to believe it. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do is just sit minding your own business, and you will soon be covered in ooze. And no end in sight. Just no end in sight. It's this gigantic pressure system that it's just sitting here in this entire region of the country and just won't go anywhere. So every day is the same. Fairly warm, but not too hot. Oppressively humid. High 90s humidity. And because of high 90s humidity, an endless, constant threat of rain. Not just from afternoon to afternoon or evening to evening, but from moment to moment. So Like, for instance, in a little wee nosy into my life here, I'm out of bathroom supplies. I have run out of bathroom supplies. And there is a bodega. Those of you who are not in America might not know what a bodega is. A bodega is a certain kind of small neighborhood store. They are on the corner. They sell this and that, stuff that you're going to need, stuff you're going to run out of. The prices fluctuate and are negotiable. The people are extremely stoic and who run them, and the clientele is very regular. They're a godsend. Bodegas are a godsend. And there's one, of course, that I'm lucky. I'm not complaining. There's one that's probably a minute from where I am, a minute from my front door. You would think that given that, a 2-minute round trip, that I could easily estimate when I would and wouldn't get caught in a drenching downpour or a dangerous thunder and lightning outburst, and yet I can't. Well, this is the second week. We're now entering the second full week in which I cannot predict that. I was out just a little bit ago with the little Fraulein. And we step out the door and look around like it's Nazi Germany and we're looking for, Allied bombers. We're looking for the all clear. And it looked clear and we were still caught in the rain. I forget why I was on the subject of... I was just mentioning the weather, wasn't I? I was just mentioning the weather. It's grotesque. And it's grotesque in a way that makes any voyage outside perilous. So even though I am running low on certain bathroom supplies, I'll have to bite the bullet. I will just do it. The worst times of day are, of course, convection driven, so sunrise and sunset. So we'll see. I can kind of sort of plan otherwise, but I don't even remember what the sun looks like. And as to a dry day, not just no rain, but humidity that's below 60%, 90% humidity. That's something you have to go to the rainforest of Bolivia. Anyway, there's your weather rant for the day. Let's move on here. Oh, okay, great. Here, this is another Europa edition. Fantastic. Okay. Oh, and it's a Europa edition that I haven't got to. That's not good. That's not good. I should have. This is the finished copy of something we've seen here before. Comes out in late September. It's by Chris Warmersley, and it's City of Crows in the finished copy. Isn't that lovely? Look at that. And this is set in 17th century France, a country in the thrall of dark magic and weakened by years of plague, and inspired by real-life events. It tells the story of Charlotte Picot, a young woman from the countryside, forced to venture to the fearsome city of Paris in search of her kidnapped son. On her own time, for the first time in her life, and desperate to find her child, she is soon drawn into the world of the occult, where she discovers she is indeed more powerful than she ever imagined. And that intrigued me the first time I read it on this channel, and I still haven't got to this book. So that goes, on the pile. That goes on the pile to be done right away. Oh no, I know why. I know why I was perorating about the weather, because I mentioned that Like a Sword Wound is due in early October, and I was about to say, believe it or not, despite the weather, that's right around the corner. Amazing as that is, in no time at all, we will be in the end of August. That's very strange. All right, let's move on here. This one, as you can see, was inspected first by a certain someone who is currently destroying another package as we enter her terrible twos. So she didn't get to the book, thank God. Let's see what she feasted on. Oh boy, oh my. Okay, all right. This is, I don't know what that is. This is the pub sheet. This comes out soon, next month. Yes, this comes out in early September. This is edited by Scott Bruce, and it is the Penguin Book of Hell. Oh my. A spate of recent bestsellers have tapped into our curiosity about heaven. Books like Heaven is for Real, 90 Minutes in Heaven, Proof of Heaven, the authors of all three recanted. But according to gravedigger turned historian Scott Bruce, hell is far more interesting than heaven. And this book chronicles 3,000 years of histories of visions of hell from the ancient Near East to modern America. Recently, news outlets around the world reported on the Vatican's emphatic assertion that hell does not indeed exist, amid speculation that Pope Francis had told a reporter it did not. And according to a recent survey by the Pew Research Center, almost 60% of Americans, adults, believe in the existence of a place where people who have led bad lives and die without being sorry are eternally punished. Well, that's a reflection of the fact this is mostly a Christian country, rather than the persuasiveness of the belief. I don't know what to say about that anecdotal report where the Pope Francis said he doesn't think that hell exists. He has no way. This is a fantasy alternate dimension that no one has ever visited, that no one has ever seen. There's no proof for anything like this. So why his opinion on it would be any different than anybody else's, I don't really know. I guess if you're a Roman Catholic, he is infallible in matters of faith. But even so, this is a rare instance where I side firmly with the quote-unquote new atheists, all of whom point out the grotesquerie of eternal punishment, of the idea of eternal punishment, for anything, for any crime. the idea of it is... it's grotesquely sadomasochistic. It shouldn't have any place in any kind of adult view of anything, that you could be eternally punished for something, let alone the long itinerary of things that, according to old manuals of sin, you could be punished with eternal damnation for, some of which were as petty as stealing. And also, it denies completely the idea of repentance. That repentance has to happen in the mortal world just is ridiculous. It's just a totally arbitrary thing. It's a rule that is designed entirely around the absolutely ironclad and yet unspoken admission that this is the only world that anybody knows anything about. So you have to see it here. Never mind that if you were sentenced, if your soul, your spirit double or whatever it is that is supposed to be leaving your body when you die, were to go to this weird dimension called hell and start to suffer eternally, skin burned off, and then grown back at an accelerated rate so it could burn off all the more quickly again. Who thinks up this stuff? But if that were your sentence, I don't think it would take you very long to genuinely repent of your ills, of whatever it is that got you in there, slapping your mother, stealing a loaf of bread. I don't think it would take you long to genuinely repent. And yet, according to the Christian view of hell, that repentance doesn't count. It has to happen here, even if it's obviously facile here, even if it's a deathbed confession made out of fear and obvious hypocrisy to a hovering vulture of a priest. Something, in other words, that no one in their right mind would believe. Whereas, if you're seeing if you're feeling the actual consequences of your wrong, and if presumably you have otherworldly knowledge of the world and the afterworld and maybe God, then your repentance would be real. But no, no. Anyway, it's, as you can tell from my little spiel here, it's an evolving subject. It's going to be frustrating to read. I haven't read my advanced copy yet. It's going to be frustrating to read only because I'm going to be remembering the whole time I'm reading it how many thousands and thousands and thousands of people had their lives completely ruined by this idea that is, it's fun to read about, it's fun to think about, but to actually believe it is one of the most unhealthy things I can think of. And yet, so many people have had their lives ruled by this concept. I would have done X, Y, or Z, but I did not want to burn forever with the full knowledge of my loving Creator. So my loving Creator is in some other alternate dimension. He knows perfectly well that I am burning in agony forever. No sleeping, no relief, nothing. Just burning in agony forever, and he's okay with that. But we're supposed to call him loving. And those of us who aren't there, those of us who are in the alternate dimension that's good, the one where you're, I guess, happy all day long, you're supposed to be happy knowing that. Anyway, I can't wait to read it, because I think this author, if he's a gravedigger turned historian, he's probably going to crop up some stuff that I have not read in forever or that I've never read, and that's going to be great. It's one of the virtues of an anthology like that, is that you encounter all sorts of unfamiliar stuff. You are making a mess, little girl. Goodness gracious. You should see the floor. It looks like snow. And I'm going to be the one who has to pick it up. Anyway, let's see here. Oh my. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, now see. Okay, this comes out in September, and I did not request it, but this is a perfect example of the kind of thing that I will read, and I will, if it's outstanding, I will do my best to review it. But one of you is certainly in a better position to review this book than I am, and I'm willing to help you with the form and the tone and all that stuff, the writing and the rewriting. But one of you is certainly in a better position to read this. This is Burning Down the House by Tim Moore. And the subtitle is Punk Rock, Revolution, and the Fall of the Berlin Wall. Now, I know everything there is to know about the fall of the Berlin Wall, but I don't know anything about punk rock. And it's obviously going to be a vital part of this book. And one of you probably knows it backwards and forwards. Let's see here. By the time President Reagan uttered the fateful words, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," social discontent and a shared fear of nuclear annihilation among the young on both sides of the Berlin Wall had already galvanized a generation of resistors. Okay, true. It wasn't just the young, though. It wasn't just the young. But plenty of people who were in their 30s and 40s who were just getting a little bit more sick every day of not being able to conveniently visit their relatives, not having the freedom to move around, knowing perfectly well from an underground network that people had daily, ordinary, what we consider to be ordinary, everyday freedoms, only a few dozen yards away. It wasn't just young people. It's a convenient, an attractive thing that revolutions are already carried out by the young. But let's see here. Despite Western propaganda, the end of a divided Germany actually came from within, fueled in part by punk rock. Okay. Throughout the 1980s, punk, with its clashing music and in-your-face fashion, became a secret but powerful tonic, the rallying point of an East German youth revolution and the soundtrack to history-changing uprising. See? I will certainly read this with fascination, although that line, what was that line? Despite Western propaganda, the end of a divided Germany actually came from within. If your implication there is that it came from punk rock, I think not. We all know how the Berlin Wall fell. A German Soviet official misstated something, made a simple blunder in a press conference, and word spread like wildfire, and that's all it needed. If you've got 10 people challenging your authority at a wall, at an arbitrary checkpoint, if you're a guard who's drawing, $300 a year in salary and isn't really all that invested, if 10 people challenge your authority in the course of a year, you're perfectly willing to stand by that authority and do what has to be done. If 300 people challenge it in an hour, you're going to back down, and the guards did. They smiled and they backed down. That had nothing to do with punk rock. But maybe this author will teach me different. Wow, we shall see. Okay, so this is by Tim Moore, who is an award-winning translator of authors such as Alina Bronsky, Wolfgang Herrendorf, and Charlotte Roche. His own writing has appeared in the New York Times Book Review, New York Magazine, and Inked, among other publications. And he spent several years as a staff editor at Playboy magazine, where he edited Hunter Thompson, John Dean, Harvey Pekar, among others. Prior to starting his writing career, he earned his living as a club DJ in Berlin. Okay, so he knows his subject and he knows how to write. This is fascinating. I don't know if you can hear me over the sound of the thrashing that's going on, but it's going to take me an hour. There's mounds of confetti now on the floor of this room, and I can't really complain because I've had beagles in my life who did the same thing with my mail. They became every bit as eager for the mail as I was, and maybe that's just going to happen with this dog, where she's just going to become intensely eager for the mail so she can rip it to pieces. I just want to make sure that she knows rule number 1, 2, and 20. The only rule is you don't attack a package until I've opened it. You can have the packaging, you can't have the book inside. But she's just thrashing away, happy as a clam. So let's move on here. What is this next book? See, this one is damp. It was probably out in the rain for a bit. Okay, all right. This is not requested by me, not recognized by me. Wow. Okay, this is... Okay, the book is wrapped in bubble wrap and also wrapped in shrink wrap. So let's see if we can free it. This is Characters, an ancient take on bad behavior by Theophrastus. That's a lovely design, a fantastic cover. But can this really be a translation of Theophrastus? I would find that hard to believe. Let's see here. Enclosed, please find a review copy of a new title from Callaway Arts and Entertainment. Callaway Arts and Entertainment in New York. the publication date is October the 1st. This modest-sized hardcover introduces contemporary audiences to a satirical text from the 4th century philosopher Theophrastus. When Aristotle wrote that comedy is about people we regard as worse than ourselves, he may have been recalling this same hard-edged gem of a treatise written by his favorite student. Characters is a joyful festival of fault-finding, a collection of 30 closely observed personality portraits defining the full spectrum of human flaws, failings, and foibles. Its publication comes at a time when questions of civility and mores still dominate the daily discourse. This is a translation by Pamela Mensch. That's no small thing. I would have led with that. The first widely available English translation in over half a century. Longer than that, I bet. I don't think Penguin's ever done Theophrastus. Wow. And it's fully illustrated by Andre Carrillo. Let's take a look at one of those. It's got a bunch of illustrations. Oh, these are beautiful. Oh, look at that. Oh my God. So that's what this is. This is an illustrated new hardcover translation of a classic author no one's ever heard of. How wonderful. Oh wow. I've got to email Callaway Books and tell them how grateful I am. How wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, this comes out in in early October. Wow, that is the surprise of the day so far. This mail haul does end in a couple of boxes. So let's get on to them. Theophrastus. All right. What is this next one? Okay, this is from the University of Chicago Press. This comes out in late August as a paperback. It's part of their Critical Lives series, and this one is by Kevin Hayes, and it is a critical life of Mark Twain. Samuel Langhorne Clemens, born in 1835 in Monroe County, Missouri, was never one to let the facts get in the way of a good story. An indefatigable inventor of tall tales, Mark Twain was a natural-born storyteller who freely adapted the incidents of his life and tales he heard as a youth to embellish his fiction, as well as his travel writings and memoirs. However captivating this technique may be for Twain's readers, for the modern biographer it poses a real problem. I don't know if you can even hear me over the Gotterdammerung going on the floor. In accounts of Twain's life, how do we discern what is true and what is just another colorful yarn? That's not a rhetorical question. I would like to answer it. Twain never lies in his letters. To his friends, he never lies in his letters, so it's not that hard to distinguish fact from fiction in his real life. In this new account of one of the most fascinating, charismatic, and gifted characters in American literature, Kevin Hayes reviews Twain's life and work from his early journalism to his masterpiece, Huckleberry Finn. Frida, do you want to give it a rest? No one can even hear me. Do you want to give it a rest? You're panting your head off. I don't think that's going to have any effect. So this is a literary life of Mark Twain. There's nothing just about that, but that's fantastic. This is a nice, sturdy volume with lots of illustrations. And it comes out real soon. So this is another example from this mail haul of something that I will read right away. Although I don't think anything's going to get read faster than a new translation of Theophrastus. That's kind of a given. Now we'll do one of the two boxes. It's a very thin thing. Something that could easily have been put in an envelope. We'll see what the reason for it was. Okay. This is the University of Nebraska Press, and this is a memoir by Sandra Lambert called A Certain Loneliness. A heartbreaking feeling that that's our author as a little girl. No description. After contracting polio as a child, Sandra Lambert progressed from braces to crutches to a manual wheelchair to a power wheelchair, but loneliness has remained a constant, from the wild claustrophobia of a child in body casts to just yesterday, trapped at home, gasping from pain. A Certain Loneliness is a meditative and engaging memoir in essays that explores the intersections of disability, queerness, and female desire for frankness and humor. Okay. Huh. All right. I don't really know what that last line means. I have a desire for frankness and humor, and I'm not female. But one way or another, this is going to be a memoir for another age. Polio. Good Lord. And this comes out on September 1st. Sounds like grim reading, but because of the date, it has to be soon reading. And then our last one, for I set about for the rest of my day. This is I think there's probably 90 minutes of daylight left today, and I'm going to have to spend all of that cleaning this room because there's no spot of floor now that isn't covered in something, in some bit of paper or plastic. So that's new. That's a first. She hasn't done this on camera. Let's see what this last one is here. Oh, you're kidding me. Oh my God. No way. Okay. All right. This is another example of... I've mentioned on this channel that 2018 is showing a trend in biographies, my favorite kind of reading. It's showing a trend of slightly atypical biographies where in an ordinary year you would expect that the main run of biographies would be dead presidents, dead Kennedys, dead kings, dead queens, dead emperors, that sort of thing. There would be a certain, no matter how good they were, some of them would be excellent, some of them would be only run-of-the-mill, but there'd be a certain predictability to them. 2018 has had none of that predictability, and it's been a joy. It's been a joy to read biography in this year. And this is the latest example of that. Good Lord. This is from the University of Nebraska Press. Again, this is The Man in the Arena. That is the cover. The Man in the Arena, The Life and Times of U.S. Senator Gail McGee. And the description, this is due on September 1st, so I've got my night's reading cut out for me thanks to this mail haul. There was a time when Wyoming and other Rocky Mountain and Midwestern states were as likely to elect a liberal Democrat to Congress as they were a conservative Republican. Heavy sigh, and then we move on. Gail McGee, who was born in 1915 and died in 1992, was elected to the U.S. Senate in 1958 at the height of American liberalism. He typified what Teddy Roosevelt called a man in the arena, and was a major player in the development of America's post-World War II foreign policy and almost every legislative milestone in U.S. history from the 1950s to 1980. McGee's career as an academic, a senator, and an ambassador spanned World War II, the Red Scare, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the activists in Congress in the 1960s. This elegantly conceived biography of a liberal from a conservative rural state of Wyoming offers readers a glimpse into formative political shifts of the 20th century. Fantastic. So this is a biography of Gail McGee. It's just incredible. Okay, and the author, Roger McDaniel, is a pastor and a former lawyer and Wyoming state senator. He served as a member of the Wyoming State House from 1971 to 1977, while McGee was a U.S. senator, and in the state senate from 1977 to 1981. And he is the author of another book about Wyoming politics. It's called "Dying for Joe McCarthy's Sins: The Suicide of Wyoming Senator Lester Hunt," which I now wish I had. I'll have to see. Maybe University of Nebraska Press would be willing to raid the warehouse and send me a copy. Wow. Okay. So this has is written by somebody who was in the arena himself and knows exactly what he's talking about, and it has a foreword by Alan Simpson, who's a senator from Wyoming. So this is the full treatment. Son of a gun. A biography. All right. Okay. Fine. Great. And this comes out on September 1st, so I have all the rationale I need to read it tonight. So I've got a whole bunch of reading to do tonight. That's great. Let's see here. Let's recap. What have we got here? So, only 2 hardcovers. We have The Man in the Arena, right to the top of the list. Then Burning Down the House, about the role that punk rock played in the fall of the Berlin Wall. Then, what else we got here? A Certain Loneliness, a memoir of living with polio. Mark Twain, A Critical Life, a literary critical life of Mark Twain. Characters, a new translation of a bit of Theophrastus by a great translator in a beautiful illustrated edition. I'm amazed I didn't know this was coming. Just amazed. Then the Penguin Classic Book of Hell, the Penguin Book of Hell. Penguin original anthologies are always so much fun, and this one I'm sure will be too, my rant notwithstanding. Then City of Crows by Chris Womersley. And these are two from Europa. City of Crows by Chris Wormsley and Like a Sword Wound, Book 1 in the Ottoman Quartet by Ahmet Altan. So there you go. That is a very swampy, humid mail haul with the apocalypse happening in the background. And this is the first time this has ever happened, but judging by the sheer amount of fun that my little schnauzer is having, I'm willing to bet this won't be the last time. So I'll just have to hope that the microphone here discriminates the sound well enough, because if you can't hear me, I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'll just have to train her that, yes, packages mean you will have lots to play with, but first you have to wait 20 minutes. I don't know how that's going to go over. But one way or another, I would show her to you, but she is engrossed in destroying things. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.